Another Masking and Bemoaning spooky edition. And we are going to talk about something very important. There are only 2 real werewolf movies worth your time. And that is the 1985 Silver Bullet and the 1982 American Werewolf in London. For today's mask, as I said, this will be a masking and bemoaning. I'm actually going to do a mask today. It's going to be the Origins Clear Improvement Active Charcoal mask to clean your pores. All right, so I'm going to start with the gist of American Werewolf in London. 2 American friends, are backpacking in the moors of, they sound like they are Scottish because they are in the UK. It starts off at night. The main character is David, his friend. I cannot recall, and it is not important. I will insert it at this point. But they are backpacking through the Highlands of Scotland. In the particular area that they are in, they have werewolf. Though they never actually call it that, that is what it is. To the point that the locals have like a pentagram set up in the pub. They know this is ongoing and they're hostile to outsiders, but to the barkeep's credit, she was like, hey, when they come in to the bar, just to get warm, because again, it's cold. I'm gonna say it's just cold in the UK in general. I went there in the summer, it was still kind of cold. Not recently, because of, you know, COVID, Covisha. But anywho, they come in to get something warm. At first you think that they're just kind of hostile to Americans. No, they're just hostile to outsiders, but they have a whole thing set up because they know that for whatever reason, they have a werewolf. I don't know if you never find out if it's a pack. You never find out what or the origin of it, at least not in the story. I don't know if this is based on a book. If it is, I'll insert that information. I'm just talking about the movie, so it kind of doesn't matter. And you leave this on for 10 minutes and when it dries. Okay, turn on my fan as well. Okay, what makes this, but anywho, one of the friends gets killed, the other one gets bit. The one that survives, David, he is haunted by his friend that is mauled to death by the vampire, and he's increasingly, what's funny, and I don't know if they meant it to be funny, is that he's increasingly decaying through these visions that he's given to David. So that's funny. I don't know why it is to me, because it's just like, he's like, you know, for you not to kill anybody, you gotta kill yourself. And his victims are haunting him in various levels of decay, but his friend's just getting worse over time, because obviously he's the first one to die, even though he is not the one that kills his friend. Again, it is the werewolf of this town in Scotland. I want to say, so it might be England, but it's in the UK. It doesn't matter. They sound kind of Scottish. He you know, goes through recovery, because he is kind of beat up as well by the werewolf. He obviously survives the attacks. He heals fast, but that's based on the werewolf power. Throughout the whole movie, one of the brilliant things is the music in this movie, because they're all moon based, including stuff like Creedence Clearwater's Bad Moon on the Rise. It starts off with Blue Moon, just everything moon in the moon phases, which I loved. There was a great sense of humor. The makeup, this is also one of the first ones that we see like a great transformation of a person turned into a werewolf. That was done by the great Rick Baker, the monster maker, who we also know did the wolf makeup for Michael Jackson. Well, he did all the makeup for Michael Jackson's Thriller that came out a year later. And what a difference a year makes, because I am not gonna hold you, but the werewolf in Thriller, at the very beginning, as part of the movie when him and the girl are on a date, that werewolf looks 10 times better than the werewolf in American Werewolf in London. That, when he was in his final form and we see him as a whole wolf, David, he looks like a bear. Just like, that would be nothing. I mean, still scary, like, cause one of the people he kills him like on the subway or the tube, where the man is just going home and he's, you know, waiting on the platform, and he outruns him for a little bit, but eventually, you know, David as the werewolf catches up to him. But he looked like a whole bear. I mean, if the bear was coming at me, I still would be scared too. That's still scary, but that he did not look like a werewolf. The transformation portion of it was the most groundbreaking to me. And although this is not my favorite werewolf movie, this does have the better looking werewolf as well. But that's another that just might be based on, you know, Rick Baker's movie magic. So I love that. And obviously at the end he dies, but that happens, I'm sorry, spoilers, but this has been out since before I was born, so you should have seen these by now. But these are two that's worth your time. Okay, so that's the first one anyway, and it's just great. It's a serious, it takes itself seriously as a werewolf movie, although there are jokes throughout it, and it's still funny, because like the things that he dreams about, because he does not remember being, when he's a werewolf, David does not remember anything that he does, so that's interesting as well. So he's not conscious of it. Of course, he does not believe that he's going to turn into anything, but eventually, you know, he gets shot by the police after he goes basically on a rampage, because, you know, he's a wild animal when he's a werewolf. So yeah, that's how it ends. But it's funny because he like has a dream that he changes on his family back in America, and it's ridiculous. It's like he's like Ramboing his family. It's like, you have like wolf paws. It's not like, how are you doing some of this stuff? It's ridiculous. But it's a great time. It's a great movie. It's campy in the right kind of way. Love it. An honorable mention before we get to my favorite movie, as I've mentioned before, Silver Bullet. Honorable mention, I would mention the remake of The Wolfman with Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins. Also set in the British countryside. Anthony Hopkins is not British, he's South African, but he often plays British. But if you white in South Africa, for the most part, you are like British or Dutch, but you know, let's keep it a book. That's neither here nor there. But anywho, and the wolf madness is like generational, so it passes down to his son Benicio del Toro. I just like the story of that one because it's like he was cognizant as a human being, even when he had transformed into a wolf. And the interesting part about that was that he could change at will. So he was like the alpha or whatever. Yeah, and he still always had beef with his son, so it was an interesting layer of that. But it still looked like the werewolf looked good as far as the makeup, but by that time, because that came out in the 2000s, I'll insert the year, but the advancement had stepped up. I also don't mind the way that because in like Twilight, the werewolves, which Twilight are terrible. I have never liked Twilight. The first one was okay, but it's just dumb on so many levels. Like, it's dumb. But anywho, I didn't mind that they actually turned into like legit wolves, so I like that as well. I don't mind that, but story-wise, Wolfman is worth you looking at. Anywho, the main one that is the best werewolf movie to me is Silver Bullet. Silver Bullet came out in 1985. The story is set in 1973 and is told by Jane, who is the sister of the main character. Well, she's a main character too. Jane is the sister of Marty. Marty is played by Corey Haim. Corey Haim is he's disabled. He has to use a wheelchair. The Silver Bullet is actually the name of his wheelchair that his uncle eventually juices up for him, so it's like motorized and he can really make it go fast. He still gets around town in a motorized wheelchair. We don't know how Marty, that's who Corey Haim is playing, that we don't know the origin of him being disabled. But this is also based off of a novella from Stephen King. I've never read this novella. I would be interested to find it. Whereas the other few things we don't know. We don't know how, spoiler alert, the pastor of this small town in Maine, almost because Stephen King is from Maine, almost all of his movies, horror movies, are set in Maine. Fine, Misery set in Maine, It is set in Maine, Shawshank Redemption is set in Maine, etc. Yeah, so in any case, but most of these we don't know, and it's a small town in Maine. We don't know the origins of the preacher, played by Everett McGill. The preacher is the werewolf. We do not know how he became a werewolf, and from what is implied later on in the movie, he does not remember how it happened either. So I'm not sure if he was bit. I'm not sure if he was born with it. We don't know how it works for him. We do know that because even the way it is in the movie, it's not necessarily a full moon. I think at a full moon he's at his top form, but and then sometimes he's cognizant of what's happening and other times he's not. So that's very confusing as well as far as the lore of werewolves, because he was also targeting like people that were committing sins. Like one woman, for example, one of his first victims is she had an unwanted pregnancy and she had got some pills to kill herself, and he burst through her window and killed her before she could do it. So there's that. He explains later on that he targeted her for that. He was trying to justify what he was doing, because I mean, it's a small town, he's a preacher, and no one's going to look at him, no one would guess it was him. But then it all starts over like the summer, because it's basically around the 4th of July or Memorial Day. It's in the summer though. So, because the kids are not in school, or they're just getting out of school when they start having people being killed. The first kill that the preacher does in the town, no one realizes, because he kills the town, one of the town drunks, who, well, he's the town drunk, because everyone knows this man for being drunk. So people just think, and his body gets severed, his head gets severed by the railroad track. So no, people just think he just fell asleep on the railroad track, so it didn't look like suspicious. But my thing is he cognizant enough to set that up, or was that just coincidental? So yeah, and then what really gets it kicked off is that Marty's best friend, Grady, is out a little too late at the park. This is after the town had enforced a curfew because there had been killers. Of course, people say just like a serial killer going around. Because yeah, why? It takes it from the look of like today. Like, why would you think that there is a werewolf out? So it takes it for that. And he, of course, being just a little snot-nosed little kid, you know, he's like a little kid just playing a little pranks. There's nothing like wrong with him, right? Like, well, Grady was a bad kid. No, he's just being a little boy. He stayed out too late and ignored it, and he got hemmed up at the park while he was flying his kite at night. And you know, the father was like, he couldn't even identify his son. He was torn to pieces, and that leads into a great scene. This goes back to him being cognizant, where the townspeople have decided that they're going to take justice into their own hands. So they're going to go to the woods in the middle of the night with just to find out, just to get this monster or person or whatever. And to his credit, the preacher does try to stop them, but when he's in his preacher form. And And then he turns later on, and this is not supposed to be funny, but it is. But like, he's beating, instead of like mauling somebody, he's beating somebody with a bat. That bar, the main bar in the town, the barkeep has a bat called the Peacemaker, and like all you see is the fog and the werewolf hand beating this man with a bat. I'm like, come on now.
It's not realistic.
But
it's just not realistic.
Anywho, back to Marty, how we get into this really taking off, and how we know that it takes a silver bullet to kill a werewolf. And no one thinks that a werewolf is real until Marty sneaks out, also after curfew, also after his friend has been killed. Because his uncle, played by, you know, the great Gary Busey, he's great in this. You know, he's the fun uncle who does like to drink. You know, the one who's like a good time. He likes to drink. He's been married a few times. He's got the jokes. You know, so the kids love him. And it's the mom's sister. We never know Marty and Jane's mom's parents' name, but or we do, it's just not important. We just know them as mom and dad because they're not there. They are in and out just so you can see, hey, these kids have parents. But anywho, so for the 4th of July, because Marty is kind of bummed because they canceled the fireworks, obviously, because, you know, the serial killing, and they canceled the fair. So in great uncle fashion, he soups up his motorized, this is when he soups up his motorized wheelchair and makes it like he can really go on it, like really fast. Like he could go a little bit beforehand. It still would have been fast enough to get away from the werewolf, but like he really souped it up. He was riding around like it's a motorcycle, so it was fun. And he gets him, you know, some fireworks so he can shoot it since he's so mad about missing. He said, well, you know, go away from the house, don't go too far, because you know you gotta look out. And he jokes, you gotta look out for the werewolf, ha ha ha. And he goes to the bridge at night after everyone is asleep. He takes his fire and he's shooting them off of the bridge by himself, which, I mean, even though it's needed for the plot, it wouldn't make sense for somebody else to be out there with him because they couldn't sit on, there was nowhere for them to, maybe his lap, on his motorized wheelchair. So he's out there, and of course when he's out there popping it, here comes Reverend Werewolf, and he tries to run up on Marty. Marty lets go. He was already in the process of lighting a bottle rocket. He lets it go and it hits him in the eye. And that is how we confirm by this point, because we're still not sure that the Reverend is the werewolf. Even though he had the most hilarious dream. It's still funny to me, which if I still have the clip, I will insert it, when he is having a dream, when he is at the funeral for somebody that he killed on accident. So it's still bothering his conscience, but everyone in the church turns into a werewolf. There's a werewolf playing the organ. Hilarious.
There is only private justice. The Bible tells us not to fear the terror that creepeth by night, or that which flieth by noonday. And yet we do. We do. Because there's so much we don't know, and we feel very small.
Reverend, he was torn apart!
I think that is the best. Like, it's campy in the best way, and comedic in the best way. That shout out to Gary Busey one more time for this. But anywho, but we see that he loses the eye, because like still you got a bottle rocket to the eye. So that is how, and Jane did not believe him, because why would I believe him? But she was doing her rounds, collecting cans and bottles for the church, whatever their youth group is. You know how y'all had to do stuff for whatever. Like, even in school, we had to sell chocolate bars, junk like that. So she was collecting these, and she was bringing it, but him being the reverend, he was the last place to drop off everything. She had been around town, and she was like, oh, Marty's just lying again. I can't believe that I fell for it, until she drops it off, and she goes to see that, you know, Rev's got a patch in the eye that Marty was saying she ain't seen nobody else with a patch. And she is shook. You know, and that is when everything hits the fan. The Reverend knows that they know, because, you know, even Marty doesn't know who the werewolf is, as he is a person. And again, we're never clear on how he became a werewolf. And he tried to, you know, stalk Marty in his human form, because of course he knows now. He was like, he was gonna take care of him, and I was like, Rev, now you the one in the wrong at the beginning, at the end of the day. And you know it, and maybe you need to move on. Like, we don't know where he came from. We don't know how long he's been a werewolf. It is a lot of questions still asked, but this is based on, again, on a novella. It's not even a full book, so maybe that's never asked. And Stephen King is actually the screenwriter for this. But Marty and Jane and their uncle team up, and eventually they kill the Reverend. Like, he busted through the side of the house. It was a mess. Like, it is funny. It's like, because he come, like, they always have the werewolf bust in so dramatic. I'm like, he gonna bust it? He can bust through this whole side of the house? I'm like, but it was siding. It's vinyl siding, so maybe. But still, so many layers to go through, because he like literally came through on the first floor's living room, like, because they stay up late waiting for him after they have put their crosses that are sterling silver together to go get them to make one silver bullet. They stay up all night. The parents are away. You know, their uncle sends them away. They think that they won a contest, because, you know, they don't know what's going on. And then when everything is at the end of the night, everybody done fell kind of asleep. This is when the TV used to go off. I'm young and I'm old enough to remember that, but even that was when I was a little kid, when the TV used to go off and they used to play the national anthem, or, you know, get that circle, those circles on that screen. You know, I'll insert it for y'all, for, you know, a blast for the past for some of us that are a touch older, the older millennials, and for the kids that's never seen that might watch this. But that comes on, and that is when he decides to make his attack. So you waited till like 3 to do this, and so this goes back to the whole thing of him being cognizant. And of course, they drop the bullet and it goes into the air vent, but they get in, they shoot him, he dies. That's the end of it. But it is great. It is a campy good time. It is my fave. I watch it all the time for no good reason. It's just that even the kills are hilarious, or they're not hilarious. It's just campy. It's just he's so extra that I love it. And in most werewolf movies, I'm just disappointed, because one, the lore is not there. They take themselves too seriously. The werewolves, I don't know why it's so hard, because it's like a transformation. He's turning into a monster, but they often look bad, and that, you know, that's disturbing to me and my homegirls. So yeah, but with this, like, even though Silver Bullet, he's not the best looking werewolf, he still looks better than the werewolf from American Werewolf in London. He does not look like a bear. He looks like a man that is a wolf at the same time. So, but something is still off, and it's crazy. And he gets like crazy eyes as a wolf. It's funny. But yeah, that's worth watching. How do y'all feel about these? I love a good scary movie. And you know what's gonna be funny? They are going to allow more scary movies to be free after the 31st, which is Halloween. I hate it, but that's what they do. That's just like, if you wanted to go back and watch Hocus Pocus and you had not taped it, you had to like rent it or buy it. I'm not doing that, because it is free any other time. And here we go. Like they always do that, but like this always a good time to watch Silver Bullet. It's always a good time to watch Shine. It's always a good time to watch it. So here we are. I'm not doing it. All right. Thank you. You guys be safe on Halloween. Stay inside. What y'all doing for Halloween? And how do y'all feel about this spooky situation? Let me know. Thank y'all. Nancy loves you. Come back in. We'll talk about some more. Bye.